Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into how visionary directors are literally resurrecting ancient myths using the most cutting-edge cinematic technology available. I mean, we've been telling stories of gods and monsters for millennia, right? But the way we're putting them on screen right now is completely unprecedented.
Okay, let's kick things off with this massive breaking news from December 2024. Christopher Nolan is adapting Homer's ancient Greek poem for a July 2026 theatrical release. According to Universal Pictures, Nolan is shooting this mythic action epic all across the globe. But what really stands out here is the promise of brand new IMAX film technology. We are talking about taking one of the absolute oldest stories in human history and marrying it to the most advanced, massive-scale image capture system on the planet. This isn't just going to be a movie, it's an attempt to make you truly feel the sheer, overwhelming scale of a myth.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the ancient epic Reborn. Then, gods, men, and monsters. After that, we'll look at painting with digital light, and finally wrap up with 3D and the modern myth. Let's get into it.
Part 1. The Ancient Epic Reborn. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
You probably know the story. King Odysseus, that perilous 10-year journey home after the Trojan War, the Cyclops, the Sirens, the whole shebang. Well, it's finally getting the massive, fully immersive IMAX treatment it deserves. It's a foundational myth that's inspired countless other films, sure, but rendering this ancient world through Nolan's lens and specifically for IMAX screens for the very first time signals a cinematic scale we really haven't seen before for this epic.
And just listen to this cast list. The sheer star power here is insane. We're talking Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, Charlize Theron, Anne Hathaway, and Zendaya. It leaves us all wondering who will be taking on these legendary roles. Could Matt Damon be playing the titular king of Ithaca himself? With a cast this stacked, it's incredibly clear the studio's betting big on the resonance of ancient storytelling clashing with modern blockbuster spectacle.
Moving on to Part 2. Gods, Men, and Monsters, the thematic core.
Now, academics analyzing these modern epics point out that movies like Ridley Scott's Prometheus or even Mary Shelley's Frankenstein are completely anchored by this ancient concept of hubris. It's that unyielding human curiosity, that desperate desire for immortality that inevitably crosses some highly dangerous boundaries. Like in Prometheus, scientists find a map of distant stars found in primitive cultures all across the globe, and their sheer hubris drives them to travel across the universe just to knock on the door of their makers. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate conflict explored in these films. It's the creators, whether they're divine gods or human scientists, pitted against the created, which includes humanity itself or the monsters we inadvertently build. The academic analysis really lays bare the blurry lines separating supposedly divine creators from their equally monstrous creations. It asks fundamental questions about existence, like, what happens when the created decides its creator is actually a monster? It's a heavy theme, and honestly, it completely mirrors our modern anxieties about things like AI today.
All right, on to Part 3. Painting with digital light. Technical execution.
Now, how do you actually visualize that kind of thematic weight? Cinematographer Dariusz Wolski really pushed the boundaries to make Prometheus as incredibly dark and moody as possible, while still ensuring we could, actually see the characters' faces. The goal was to treat the highly stylized sci-fi environment almost like a controlled documentary. Since modern digital cameras offer such crazy clarity, the lighting can easily become way too harsh. So, Wolski had to meticulously balance deep shadows with practical lighting embedded right into the set architecture itself.
You can really see that integration when you look at how characters like Charlize Theron's Vickers were lit. Production designer Arthur Max relied almost entirely on cool blue-green LEDs and fluorescents built right into the sets. In fact, get this, Wolski completely banned warm tungsten lights from these spaceship interiors. Absolutely none. Everything had to feel cool, greenish, or stark blue to create this realistic but very cold industrial atmosphere.
The logistics behind making this work are just fascinating. We're talking about a massive, complex web of lighting on Pinewood Studios' 007 stage, which is the largest in Europe, by the way. Set builders left slots open everywhere so lighting fixtures could be hidden inside walls and floor troughs. And the best part? Because every single light was wired to a dimming board system, Ridley Scott could dynamically change the lighting on the fly with just an iPad. If he wanted a sudden emergency red wash or a total blackout when an actor walked into a room, boom, he just tapped a screen. It perfectly matched his super fast-paced directing style.
But hey, it wasn't all just interior LED tricks. They used massive practical setups, hanging these incredibly bright, daylight-balanced HMI lights from cranes in the giant hangar sets. But they also went out into the real world. For the exterior of the alien planet, Wolski took full advantage of Iceland's phenomenal 20-hour daylight. The sun was always low there, providing this stunning natural cinematic look that perfectly stood in for a desolate, ancient alien world.
Which brings us to Part 4, 3D and the Modern Myth, the Final Frontier.
So the really crucial point here is that number right there, 82. Ridley Scott managed to shoot this massive, globally spanning sci-fi epic in just 82 days. How? By using a multi-camera setup. He was sometimes rolling 3 or 4 cameras at once, capturing wide and tight shots simultaneously. Because he didn't have to constantly stop, cut, and reset the lights or the cameras, he kept the actors' performances super fresh and saved just an enormous amount of production time. And as for the gear actually capturing the action, instead of using traditional stretched anamorphic lenses, Scott captured these widescreen images using small, ultra-high-resolution Red Epic 5K cameras. He paired them with spherical lenses, which are standard non-distorting lenses, to maintain incredible edge-to-edge clarity and sharpness for the 3D capture. For director transitioning into 3D digital for the first time, this specific combo allowed him to move incredibly fast without sacrificing the grand, sweeping scope that a mythic story absolutely demands.
So what does this all mean? As we watch directors like Nolan and Scott push IMAX and 3D Red cameras to their absolute limits just to retell our oldest stories of gods, men, and monsters, we really have to ask ourselves, are the actual tools of modern cinema our way of stealing fire from the gods? Are we, through these massive lenses and digital sensors, grasping at a kind of immortality by cementing these ancient myths on screen? It's definitely something to chew on the next time you're sitting in a dark theater, letting a giant screen transport you across the universe. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep your curiosity burning.